Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a translation of a message that I received, and the translation reads like this. Hello, Brother Nasha, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? I want to confess to you that I am a ritualist. When I became a ritualist, as a pastor, I had to make decisions whether I wanted to become a popular pastor or just to remain as I am a small-time but wealthy pastor. So I chose to become a wealthy one, but a small-time one, not that popular, whilst I am making my money and enjoying my money without anyone judging me. And in my house, there is a room which is my altar room. In this room, there is a table, a red cloth, and on top of that table, there is a small coffin, and then there is a book. So I wrote the names of the people that do come and attend our church. If there is anyone who would have started praying in my church such that the person will start to destroy my altar, what I do is that the moment when I see that I am experiencing different spiritual attacks, and then what I do is I open up the page where that person's name is written, and then I place it on close to the coffin, and I would have opened that small coffin as well, and then I light 3 candles. I always keep 3 red candles in my room on top of the altar. So these candles, they will be burning whilst the book and the coffin will be in the middle of the triangle. They will burn until they die down, these candles. If it happens that this person does not stop praying, by the time that those candles will die down, usually what will happen is that the person can be protected by prayer, but then there are 2 demons that will rise up from the coffin to go and fight. So when I say that these 2 demons that live in that coffin, when they rise up to go and fight, they do not necessarily fight against the person that will be causing spiritual attacks in my life, but they will fight against any weak link in that person's life. That is how they'll start to affect that person. By weak link, I mean it might be the husband, the child, maybe the wife to the person that will be praying, or the husband, and sometimes it might be the kids. When you wake up the kids and you say, let us pray, then the kid, they just pray, but in a lazy way. They will not want to pray with their parents. So the child that becomes the weak link, in which I'll be able to enter into her or his home, or if it is a woman, inside the womb, start to make that person to have vivid dreams, sleeping with husbands, spiritual husbands, and this will cause spiritual problems. So the only thing that I need is for that person that will be praying to lose focus. Once that person has lost focus, then I know that they will stop praying. So take for an example, you have your child and you are busy praying, and then your child gets so sick. Maybe you go and you stay in the hospital for a week or for 2 weeks. You might be someone that is prayerful, but the human heart will never change. The human heart has this seed of doubt. When you are born with that weakness of doubting God, because you might be someone that prays a lot, but if you want to see that we are all created the same, the first thing that will come to your mind when you are experiencing problems in your life that you cannot immediately solve is that you will experience doubt. And when someone starts to doubt God, then I am able to enter into the conversation. Then I'll be able to stop that person from praying. Then the spiritual attacks will stop. If I see that this person, it will keep on pushing, I can go as far as unleashing the second demon. So this second demon, when it rises out of the altar, it brings with it the demon of death, and these 2 demons, they start to work together. It will go and cause havoc and even bring death to the one who will be the weak link, your relative, your child, or whoever, so that my main target can stop praying. So that is the purpose of the altar. Underneath the altar, there is some money the money that is underneath there, it is $20. This is the money that attracts the people that come to my church to make them to pay their tithe, their love offerings in time. The money that is underneath the altar is the one that pushes them. So they will think that they are giving unto the Lord, but no, they will be giving this money to me. The moment that I stand up and if I start to preach, you will feel that you need to give unto the Lord and you will be giving your money to me. That is the purpose of me keeping that $20 note underneath my altar. And if I cannot enter into the altar room, it happens that I might be busy or doing something else. What happens is that I have to allow my wife to go and enter into the altar room. She is the only one that is allowed to enter into there. I might be sick, maybe there is something that will be wrong with me, then I have to make sure that the rituals have to take place, so my wife will go there. So when I did these rituals, it's not like I started as an evil person. There is always a beginning. I was someone who believed that I had a calling, and I even went to Bible school. In our country, there were those pastors, some of them have since passed away without having no scandals at all. So I used to look up to those pastors, and that is what pushed me to go to Bible school. I was inspired by them, and I went to Bible school and I graduated, and I started ministering at this other church, but there was a pastor there. I was still under the guidance of that pastor, who was an older pastor about to retire. The church was just a sad assembly. I would look at our church and it really seemed as if it was just, a sorry church, because the people there, they did not have hope whatsoever. Poverty would be written in their faces when I would be standing in front of them, and I used to hate to preach to those that were poor. What we will do is that when it will be time for the free will offering, the basket will go around the church, and still sometimes it will return in front without anyone putting any money at all. I then asked myself, what kind of a church is this? And then I said, we need to do something about this situation. I then decided that I needed to go and find spiritual powers. In my quest of spiritual powers, it was not like I said, let me just become a ritualist. I went to different prayer mountains. I would fast, I would pray, but no answer until I told myself, you know what, this means that God is not there. If God cannot answer my prayer, let me find one who can. And indeed, the devil was looking out for me. I was supposed to go and visit my mom in the villages, and I was approached by a man who told me that he was a sangoma. The man then told me that he had a dream. In his dream, he saw me. So when I was at Mbare, walking towards the place where our buses would park, then this man said, it is you. You are the one that I have been dreaming about almost each and every night. So at first, I just thought that this is a common thief, those ones that do pickpocketing at Mbare Mosika. I tried to ignore him, and he called out my name. He was like, Mufundisi Tinashe Moyo, meaning Pastor Tinashe Moyo, not his real name. You cannot run away from me, for I have been sent to help you fulfill your desires. This man, he knew my name, my surname, and he knew that I was a pastor. I then stopped and I said, okay, if he knows my name, it means that there is something deeper that he wants to tell me. We then went to the place where he was working, and whilst we were there, he then gave me some charms, just a few charms. He said, you need to rush to see your mother. This is just a good luck charm that I have given you. It is going to be step 1. You are going to see what is going to happen. We quickly returned back to the bus rank. I got onto the bus whilst the bus conductor was loading the final bags, and then I noticed that the bus conductor forgot to ask me if I had bought a ticket. I did not pay. Along the way, I was scared because when the bus conductor started walking around checking the tickets again, that was when he came to the place where I was seated. He was like, Mukuru, in translation, elder brother, I forgot to give you your ticket. I'm really sorry. Apologies. He then brought a ticket for me, and on top of that, he gave me change. That was enough for me to use it to purchase another bus ticket when I was returning back to Harare. That was when I knew that indeed the lucky charm that had been given to me, it was working. I arrived in the village and then I had a dream. In that dream, I saw my mother. My mother was standing in front of the church. She was just standing there. So when I said to my mom, "Hey, mom, what are you doing? Are you trying to preach to the congregation?" So I was walking towards her. When I reached the place where she was standing, my mom started running towards me. Then my mom somehow managed to enter into my body and her spirit possessed my body. That was when I heard a voice that spoke and said, "Oh, so you have chosen to sacrifice your mother. If you have chosen to sacrifice your mother, let me give you the power that you deserve. Your mother's spirit will be the one that will be helping you to prophesy. Prophesy now, my son. Prophesy, my son. Prophesy, my son." That voice kept on shouting. And then when I started to prophesy, I started to see that in church there were people that would enter into the church, and at the time I was worried that this church was not growing. Then I prophesied. The more that I prophesied using my mother's spirit, the more that the people started coming to church, until I could not even count the people that were in the church. It was like there were the sands on a beach. The way that these people were so many, you could not count them. And then I heard a voice that asked me if I wanted to be famous. And I said, "No, I do not want to be famous. I want to remain unknown." And then it said, "So be it." Those people that were in church, some of them, they started disappearing. But instead of the people, I saw money that was everywhere. I was told that our church would be small, the assembly would not grow, but those that would be at the assembly will be ultra rich, including me, their pastor. I saw myself being uplifted. Then I was carried by a spirit that was more like a dragon. It was like a dragon and a bird at the same time. It flew and it flew until I was standing above the earth. I know that it is going to sound like I really do not know how people are going to take it. I was on top of the world, but I expected the things that I was taught in university, but to see those things that I was taught in university, like the sun spinning and revolving around the sun and other planets, but that was not what I see. I saw planets that looked like angels, and these angels, they were tied as if they were prisoners in heavy chains. And then I saw that the sun was not the center of the universe, rather the earth was the one that was the center of the universe. And to my surprise, I saw that the sun was the one that was going down as if the earth was swallowing the sun. And after the earth had swallowed the sun, the moon would come out, and then it will be night time. All of this, it happened whilst I was lifted up above the earth. And then that dragon flew with me back to earth, and I found myself no longer in church anymore, but I was at the graveyards, and I saw my mother. She was crying, sitting by a grave. I rushed to her and I said, "Why are you crying, Mom? Mom, what are you crying?" In that moment, I had not yet realized that my mother had passed away. She cried, and then she said, "How can I not cry, my son? For you have not chosen rest for me, but you have chosen death for me." Then I said, "What are you trying to say, Mom?" Then I saw that my mom was wearing a dress. She started to tear that dress, and then I saw that on her chest there was a very big hole, and her heart, it seemed as if it was missing. I asked her and I said, "Where is your heart, Mom?" And then she said, "My heart, oh my heart, where is my heart?" She then started looking around, crawling around the graves like a woman who was possessed by a demon. And then she looked at me. She was angry. She grabbed me by the neck and she said, You stole my heart. You exchanged your mother's heart with those two devils that have given you power." And I started crying. When I cried, then everything just disappeared. I found myself caught up in another vision again. In that vision, I saw that there were other men that were bringing me powers, but this man, it seemed as if they were Christians, yet at the same time they were satanic. I then returned back to Harare. I was then informed that my mom was severely sick. My Sangoma then told me that I was supposed to bring her to the city so that he can give her more herbs. So I spoke with my relatives. My mom was brought to Harare. So what I used to do was that I would go with my mom to the hospital, and in the evening then I would wait until my wife would have fallen fast asleep. My relatives and my wife did not know that the reason as to why I had brought my mom to the city, it was because I wanted to sacrifice my mother. And in the evening, I would tell my wife that my friend would come and pray with me. So this traditional healer, he would come in the evening, even wearing a suit and holding a Bible. We used to pray or do those rituals around 11 p.m. when my wife would be fast asleep. Then we would pray for my mom in another spare bedroom where she would be sleeping. The first thing that the Sangoma will do is that he will say, let us pray. We will pray and pray and pray. And then when we would have made sure that my wife is fast asleep, then the rituals will start. The traditional healer will take the herbs that he would have brought with him and force my mother to drink those herbs. Those were the herbs that were going to kill her. They were not charms to heal her. My mom passed away whilst I was holding her. As per the Sangoma's instruction, she was not supposed to die in the hospital. As a family, we mourned for my mom after she had passed away. So there was a small disagreement between me and my relatives because the Sangoma had told me that he wanted me to bury my mom in the capital city because we have to keep on going to my mother's grave for more rituals and more rituals. So it was going to be difficult if I was going to allow my mother to be buried in the rural areas. I fought with my relatives for my mom to be buried in the city. They agreed, and then when we buried my mom, then I had to commission the digging up of my mother's grave. So after my mom had been buried, a couple of days later, I was called to the Sangoma's house, and he said, my boy, I want you to come here. And I went there. When I arrived there, he then said, I need money from you. And I said, you are now laughing at me because I have not yet made any money. He then said, anything that you have. I then took out $100 that I had, and he then took that money and he said, I am going to help you, but make sure that you're going to give me back my money. So he then took out, it was $14,000 that he gave to the men that were supposed to dig up my mother's grave and bring out her corpse, and we